I'm in my car right now, just about to leave for university. It's about 6:30 in the morning, roughly 15 degrees Celsius, and my car's been sitting overnight. Now, of course, I need to start it before I leave, so I will do that now. However, before I put in any throttle or move anywhere, I'm going to wait about 30 seconds. Why? Well, let me explain.
There are a few reasons why an internal combustion engine, or ICE, needs some time to warm up. First of all, the metals inside the engine need to expand. This is one that's often overlooked. If you've learned thermodynamics, you know that cold things are smaller than warm things, and when something gains heat, it expands. The reason you need to wait for this process is because all the metal components inside an engine, so basically everything, need time to expand in order to fill gaps and crevices. Say for instance the valves. Now the valves are what open and close during a revolution to let air and fuel in and exhaust gases out. When an engine is cold, they might be ever so slightly smaller than the actual port they're supposed to be sealing. If you then drive off and put the engine under load, that could mean the engine isn't sealed properly, and so the air and fuel that's combusted inside the engine could get out of either ports. This could lead to a burnt valve, since when the combustion happens faster than idle speeds, it generates more heat. Just saying this because I know someone will be like, okay, why doesn't it happen at idle then, you stupid bastard? A burnt valve means that valve will never seal properly ever again unless it's reconditioned or replaced, so no bueno. This is just one example of something that could happen, and realistically it probably won't, but the chance is still there, especially when considering the next reason why ICEs need time to warm up. The oil. The oil is basically the blood of the engine. It goes through passages in the engine block and lubricates metal-to-metal contact, and it also seals or helps seal some things like the valves. The thing is though, when an engine is started after sitting for a few hours or say overnight, all the oil is pulled at the bottom in the oil sump. When the engine starts, it takes about 15 seconds or more, depending on your engine, for the oil to be pumped and circulated around the engine to lubricate everything. So if you drive off before this 15-second period has finished, a lot of the components might not be properly lubricated, which can cause... That's a little harder to fix than a burnt valve. This, along with the expansion of the metal, are the main reasons why most of the wear that happens on an engine occurs in the first 30 seconds of a cold start. What if you're past 30 seconds? Well, assuming the ambient temperature is above, say, 0 degrees Celsius, you can gently set off. If it's below 0 degrees, especially if you're in an area that gets snow and such like that, you'd want to wait an extra 30 seconds to a minute. This is since the things I mentioned before take an extra long time to happen when it's that cold. Anyway, when you set off, you don't really want to use any more than about a quarter of the throttle pedal, but ideally you want to stay below that much, not just on it the whole time until the car warms up. The car gets fully warm, or reaches its operating temperature, about a few minutes after your coolant temperature gauge reaches its operating temperature, or about the middle. The extra few minutes are just for the oil to warm up, along with components such as your gearbox and other parts of the drivetrain. Up until this time, you also don't want to go above a certain RPM. If you have a diesel engine that's redlined at 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, you don't want to go above around 2,500, although admittedly I don't know much about diesel engines, so you might not actually have to worry about it that much. If you have a petrol engine though, say around below 3,000. Maybe 3,500 if your engine is redlined at above 6,500 RPM. And again, the same thing applies with this as it does with the throttle. You want to stay below that rather than just sit on it at all times until the car's actually fully warm. Okay, well that's all well and good, but can't you just hold the engine at 2,000 or 3,000 RPM after the 30-second period ends? That way you can just drive it as hard as you want straight away, right? No, that doesn't work. The engine warms up most effectively when it's under load, or rather when you're moving the car. If you just sit there at a higher RPM for a few minutes, that's not going to do anything. Not only that, but you might damage your engine by doing so. Going back to thermodynamics, cold things are smaller than warm things, and with engine oil, the way it's designed is to be thicker when cold and thinner when warm. If you try and force cold oil to circulate around an engine, it might not be able to do so effectively, which can cause... If you didn't know, this is what the numbers on the bottles of engine oil are used to indicate. The one next to the W indicates its cold or winter viscosity. The number next to it is its viscosity at operating temperatures. In both cases, a smaller number means more viscosity or thinner. But as far as I know, the winter value is on a different scale to the regular value, so 20W is thicker than just 20. I'm pretty sure this is the case because otherwise it would get thinner when it gets cold, which wouldn't really make sense. Now to be fair, a lot of modern engines do idle higher when cold. However, to my knowledge, it's never higher than 1500 RPM, since again you've got to wait for the metal, the oil, all the rest of it. Alright, well, what if I idle it for an extra few minutes? That also doesn't work. An extra minute or so is necessary for ICEs with a carburetor, however basically everything made after the 1980s uses fuel injection. The reason this is an issue with fuel injected engines is because they don't inject any extra fuel when the engine is cold. In a carbureted engine, most of the time there's a manual choke which you can pull out to rich in the fuel mixture, put more fuel into the combustion chamber as the engine is idling, and that helps it warm up quicker. Idling while cold with a fuel injected engine is actually not what you want to do. This is because as the car idles, some fuel might not be combusted due to the colder combustion chamber temperatures while idling, which is obviously not helped by the engine being cold. Since fuel doesn't evaporate as quickly in the lower temperatures, this could mean that it stays as a liquid in the cylinder and it could splash up the cylinder walls. Since petroleum is also a solvent, I'm not sure about diesel but I know petroleum is, that means it could strip away the oil on the cylinder walls, which can cause, or maybe just some scoring or scraping, but either one is very much less than ideal. However, if the car is warm, that's fine. Often, cars in commercial industries such as taxis or police cars will just never be shut off unless maintenance is required. This might seem bad and wasteful, but as we learned before, most of the wear that happens to an engine actually happens in that first period of it warming up from ambient temperatures, so if it's always warm, you're actually okay. With that, I hope you learned something from this video, and that's all. Bye bye.